Cool. So here we are recording our first podcast episode a week late. We're gonna do this week ago, but as it is with January, both of us had different sicknesses throughout the week. But here we are. We wanted to kick this off this year. Really excited. We're optimization specialists. We're really focusing on helping other businesses save time, remove the chaos, and we figured one of the best ways to do that is to come on here onto a podcast and talk about this more because a lot of times people don't know about us, but in conversation, we start talking and people realize these are all the things that they need to optimize their business. So I'm John Clark. We've got Christy
And I'm
Lime on
Christy
here,
Lime.
and we're going to be talking a little bit more about ourselves today, kind of let you guys know what's going to be coming in the future. And then from there, you guys will be getting into these recordings, solo episodes, interviews, things like that. But I'm going to hand this over to Christy, let you introduce yourself first, and then I'll jump in right after.
That sounds great. John, I'm so excited we're finally doing this. We've been talking about it for a while, and I think it's going to be a huge value add for our customers, but also people who don't know us, and a great way for us to talk about our passion and serving business owners and helping them save time. So, as you mentioned, my name is Christy Lime, one of the optimization specialists here, and as a co-founder, super passionate about serving businesses to help them save time, money, energy, resources. I've always been really passionate about business. I think ever since I was 6 years old, going into work with my dad and graduating from school, and really recognizing every job I left that they had to hire three people to do that job that I was doing. I was like, there's something there. So decided about 4 years ago now to kick off the company, and it's taken some pivots along the way. And as we talk about the podcast being called Overnight Success, anybody who's in business understands that that's a overnight success is 10 years in the making, right? So we're here really trying to showcase our skills and our knowledge to help other businesses save time and give back. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yeah, awesome, Christy. Thanks. And so I have kind of similar backgrounds as far as being passionate about business. I grew up, my aunt and uncle, they owned a farmer's market in a local town. I heard their story in the beginning of not taking a paycheck, but I started working for them at 14, cutting pineapple in the back room, and realized that one, they were the cool aunt and uncle. They seemed to travel a lot, and they had all these things going on. Like that, obviously, is very attractive when you look at business owners and the sexy life side of things. But also got to learn a lot about behind the scenes, and it was just really cool how it all comes together and all the pieces that make that run. And so I knew very quickly, even before I graduated high school, that I was going to be some type of business owner. I wanted some passion. Even purchasing my aunt and uncle's business at one point in time was kind of on the table for me. That was up in Ohio. I'm glad that I kind of didn't do that because a couple years later moved down here to South Carolina, and now we started a family down here. But I went through different ups and downs, as you mentioned. I did coaching for high school and college students. That was right before COVID hit, and then when COVID hit, like talking about coaching with parents was very difficult because they were just trying to figure out like how do I keep my kids in school and how do we get them taught. But from there, my career was and it still is in like software development. I was a developer for 6 or so years, made the switch over to product management, and then we met 3 years ago, I think, at this point now, and I heard you needed help with Monday, and I'm like, oh, I could help with that. And so working kind of hourly here and there, and then started working on bigger projects. And then it was June of 23, we
Yeah.
decided to finally like join forces and sign an LLC, and here we are today. And I tell people all the time, it's finally like that perfect match between skill set, passion, and market fit. Because like I definitely had a passion for helping high school and college students, but it was kind of a hard sell. You're trying to help students while also trying to sell to parents, and so the person paying for the services isn't the same person that you're helping, and it was kind of just this weird mesh of things. But being able to take my years in software was great for this, and I think our business partnership has been amazing. We're virtual. We talked about that before, how other than getting to see each other for about 25 minutes in Austin in December, we have not met in person. So we're probably 500 plus miles away.
Yeah, good point. I'm in Texas. So to your point, we work virtually, and it's cool to see how technology has just really transformed businesses, right? So we did meet through COVID, and that's kind of a cool story. So I'll just share real quickly to that point is the connection we made was actually someone that's virtual to me as well. I never met him in person and never met you. And it's just been really neat to serve the clientele all across the United States and even a couple abroad in the last few years of really helping them organize their system. And to your point is, I think strategically, technology, operationally, we work really well together. And it's a huge value add to the customer because they don't need to hire a full-time person. We often work ourselves out of a job, right? But that's the cool thing because we're reducing their tech stack, we're helping their teams, we're helping them scale. It's just the knowledge that we're able to bring in as a third party view, right? When you look at it, one of the phrases I like is you can't read the label when you're in the jar. So when you're working in your business, it's really hard, but being a third party, we're able to really look and kind of take that microscope, but from an outside perspective, listening to what they're doing and then provide solutions. And that's what we're good at. We provide the solution and we execute and we meet the timelines and the deliverables. And it's just been really fun to continue to scale what we started with because the company has changed a lot in the last few years, but what hasn't changed is that we're still using the technology to help other people improve and optimize their businesses.
Yeah, and I think it's to your point, being the outside party is so helpful because we're really good at this, right? Like I'm biased, but I think we're really good at this, and our clients have said so. But sometimes when I step back and look at our systems, like for our things, like this could probably be a little bit cleaner, right? Because like inside of our own thing, we don't have that outside view looking in, like you can't see the forest through the trees. So that alone, I think sometimes like that's why consultants get paid so much money when you look at like the consultant industry is because they're just that outside voice, and it's kind of hard for to come down and say all these things because like they're the CEO and people have different visions of it. But if you have this outside expert come in, there's a little bit of a different voice. They're there for a certain period of time. You can hate them all you want, but like if they're given the authority to kind of help guide things, it's really helpful. And for us, I mean, we definitely partner with our business owners, right? And we're helping them more directly than anything, but also helping set up their team. And we always get those compliments as far as just responsive time, and we have a lot of fun. And I think my favorite thing about our business, because we haven't like gone super niche on a very particular industry, is we get to just learn about all these other businesses, right? Like how they're succeeding, all their challenges. Obviously, we always try to solve those challenges, but being somebody that listens to a bunch of business podcasts, I get a behind the scenes look. We both do of like these businesses that we're helping out. So it's kind of a really cool way to learn business just by helping others.
Yeah, I love that. And when we look at that, we often say we kind of fall in a couple areas, right? So operational management, production management, people management. And what that means is looking at like, we are experts in ClickUp and Monday.com, and we are experts in the CRM world, which is the customer relationship management, right? So automating and optimizing and enhancing those integrations to help these people in their businesses work on their business instead of in it, right? Often our clients have said we can save them anywhere from 5 to 10 hours a week on the low side, which is super cool because when we're creating these different dashboard views, we give them that 30,000 foot view. When we create the custom automations, it's like a custom tool for them, but they don't have to do the work, right? Like we get to come in and really say, hey, 80% of a business is the same. You got into business because you love what you do, you're passionate about that niche. Let us help you build that foundational piece. And so it's been really neat to see how really getting people out of multiple different disjointed, disparate tools and into one or two different technologies that are truly custom built to them and their company that they more or less didn't even have to learn how to build. They just had to tell us what they want. And then we come in and optimize that. It's just been a really neat, unique value proposition for us, I think, to figure out that that is what we're really good at and just kind of doubling down on it, right? And saying, hey, you guys are good at what you do and we're good at what we do, and let us help you. And to your point, we love to partner with people because their companies are building and we're able to continue to grow with them. It's really neat when often our clients will come back to us 6 months or a year later and say, hey, you know, we've used what you built and now we're scaling up to that next level. Can you help us again? And it's fun to come back in and see them actually using the technology that's been built and how it's helped their business and their teams too, right? And I love to see the growth.
Yeah, it's been cool. And one thing I think I always have to like re-explain to people is we do use technology to accomplish, our goal of helping streamline time and all that. But we're not just like a technical support team or an IT team. Because first of all, when people hear optimization, they immediately think SEO, right? Search engine optimization, which is actually, we don't do any of that. We can connect you with somebody, but we don't do any of that. But on top of the technology to kind of integrate those different systems, you also bring the side of more of the consulting side of things, right? And a lot of times when we come in and introduce like a new project management software or even just streamline a project management software that somebody is already using, it also gives them that opportunity to kind of do a spring cleaning of their processes and operation side, because I can give you all the best tools in the world, but if you don't have the right systems in place to use it the right way, then it's not going to go very far. And that's why monday.com sells to tens of thousands of businesses, and some people use it to its fullest extent and they're extremely streamlined. But you give that tool to somebody else that is not that well off when it comes to operations and things, and they struggle to use it. And so I think I always like that too, of I can make the things connect to each other, but if you don't have the right process, you're still going to be doing really long meetings. And we've helped some of our clients, they have these status update meetings that could take over an hour. And it's like, well, what if we had all of your statuses in one place and you only talked about the things that were in trouble, not just all the things, right? Because if people are green, it's great that they're green, but you don't have to spend any time throughout a meeting to talk about that green. And we've changed our process a little bit recently too, right? Our agendas and our weekly meetings used to be like every single client. Now we're just highlighting the clients that we want to talk to. So it's just every time you kind of refine that, not only does technology help just like save button clicks and things like that, but it's also just kind of streamlining and saving a lot of that time.
Yeah, you touch on two things here. One, I'll say context switching is such a time killer, right? And so having multiple platforms that you have to go figure out, and then the manual process of data entry in this platform and then this platform, and specifically, the other thing I was going to bring up is Excel spreadsheets. So a lot of times we meet customers that are like, I have 18 abundant Excel spreadsheets, and they're hard to keep managed, and I spend hours every week trying to figure out what this data needs to be saying. And it's cool when it's like, hey, send us your 18 spreadsheets. We're going to put you into one spot. We're going to get rid of all of those spreadsheets, and then we're going to automate a lot of this for you so that we're reducing the manual entry, reducing the potential data entry mistakes by human, right? And then also creating that one spot so that you don't have to have your team going into 18 different platforms, spreadsheets, whatever the case might be, and really just giving them that, as you put it, the command center, that one central source of truth, right? It's like, hey, and what's really cool, can you talk to us a little bit about how we're able to take somebody from like a lead into, from like a CRM perspective, into the automations and the time saved by putting them into an operational platform too, and like the task list that can all be automated. Like, I think it's really powerful what that looks like, and would love to hear a little bit about that too.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we didn't know in the beginning, but we've definitely noticed now when people talk about CRMs versus project management and can you use a CRM for project management or task management, is they help each other out, but they complement each other, but they're definitely two separate things built for completely different work tasks. And so when we look at CRMs, a lot of times we use that mostly for getting the sale, right? So making sure that the first time you talk to the person, understanding there's 5 different steps to get them to that sale, keep that inside of your CRM, make sure you have the pipeline so you know what's going on there. But then from then on out, especially if you work with clients and have projects like we do with them, you want to do that in a project management system that has so much more robust functionality as far as automation, statuses, movement of things. So to me, one of the simplest things we do, but the most powerful thing that we do, is after they hit like the sold stage in your pipeline in your CRM, we can automatically go and add them to your project management system. And then we go one step further, and anything that you do recurring templatize, right? So you sign a new client and there's onboarding emails go out. They need to schedule a call with you. You need to get their accounts set up. Maybe there's 10 tasks that you do over and over. Create that list for you. So again, as soon as we mark that thing as sold, it automatically creates those 10 tasks, keeps it tied to that particular client. And then we also want to make sure that all of that's in the same location. So if I have 10 clients that kick off over a period of a month, they're all related to the specific client that they're supposed to be for. but I don't want to have to go into 10 different clients' folders to understand what's going on with each of them. I want to look at our company as a whole. And so creating that central location, as you were mentioning, of, hey, here's my overall, my 30,000 foot view. These two clients just kicked off last week. Here's their tasks. These two clients kicked off 5 weeks ago. This is where they are. Everything's in one spot. And if somebody falls behind, again, I don't have to go and look at client ABC to make sure they're falling behind. We've got the boards, we've got the dashboards, we've got the automation. So building that end to end, in the beginning, you're excited about getting the sale, but sale is only half of it, right? Like, yes, the money hits the account, but after that, you need to supply that great customer experience. And, you're good at what you do, but maybe you're not as good at that, sending out that onboarding email or getting that communication. And, that's really your first impression. I'm sure many of us have been through sales calls where they sound like they're going to be your best friend. They're going to be there for you. You swipe the credit card, and then all of a sudden, like, communication slows down. It's hard to get a hold of them. Like, you don't want that. Even if that's not what you're trying to do, it comes across that way very quickly, especially if you're a high ticket company, because if they're spending over $1,000 with you, like, they're going to be tracking every movement you make to make sure that you're on top of it. And you might not even be as good on the delivery side, but if you come through good on communication, you at least create that good confidence, and they're going to give you a little bit more leeway, I think, along the way, versus you being stale in the beginning once they give you that payment.
Yeah, that's so true. Onboarding is super important. And I think one thing to touch on is, inside of the CRM and in the operational management system is you're looking at who's responsible for what, when things are due, and you can have this visibility that's not really seen when you're inside of spreadsheets or when you're using a notebook, right? And so having this platform that's custom built to a business is really able, whether that be from lead to customer to project management, is super valuable for not only your team cohesion, but for your leadership team too, right? And so it's really neat to see the power that comes when those are built properly. And you touched on it too, is Monday.com or ClickUp has phenomenal advertising. So they sell to a lot of people, and a lot of people buy in and get the Kool-Aid, so to speak. But then when they're in the platform, they're like, how does it do these things? Or how can it make this thing happen? And I know that the platform can do this. And that's a lot of times when people come to us and they're like, hey, how come it's not doing this one thing that I know it can do? And so we're able to come in as the expert, as a certified partner with these platforms, and really give that value add that they know they need in their business, right? It's been super neat to see that transformation through the companies we've worked with too.
Yeah, and I think we've seen a lot of team member buy-in at the same time, right? Like, a lot of times people don't like change, right? So when you're coming in here and saying we're going to change your software around and add new implementation or add new processes, things like that, you definitely get pushback. But also at the same time, team members are really good at whatever they do, right? So if you're a social media company, they want to be writing social media posts and things like that. They don't want to get stuck in the reporting or the updating of statuses or all these different things. And if you as a manager are coming to them and saying, hey, what's the status of this post? Like, I got done with that 5 days ago and it's scheduled to go out tomorrow. If you don't have the right systems in place, like, you create a lot of distrust within the system. And so I think that's always been a lot of fun to kind of see the team member buy-in. So, people come to us for one reason of like, hey, I need to save some time and streamline this. And then the next thing you know, your team feels more empowered because they're spending more time doing the thing that they were hired to do and less time, crossing the T's, dotting the I's of the different systems. And so, like, by giving them that power back to focus on whatever they were hired for, I think that builds a lot too. And like, there's times I've heard of people leaving organizations because it's just so disconnected as far as systems go, right? And that obviously leads to bad revenue, and then there's probably some concerns over job safety and things like that. But once you build like that full cohesive system, they don't even have to worry about it anymore. It's a well-oiled machine. They get to do the thing that they're passionate about every day, and they're not spending 2 hours a day making sure that they're putting these really nice Excel sheets together or creating a report once a week just to let you know the status of something that is highly visible inside of a project management system.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be curious too, like, as we look at what we've already talked about, is how do people find us? Like, when, in your opinion, how are people looking to save time, money, energy? Because a lot of times, you know, social media advertisement, marketing, they know what they're doing, so they're bombarding business owners. How are how are we able to come in and say, hey, your systems are disjointed, or like you're really looking for this, you don't need to hire another person. A lot of times we want to not eliminate somebody's job, but like reduce communication, eliminate communication, right? And what do you feel like is like a hot topic inside of a business, or like what are their pain points when they start to look for us?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, and I think for us, visibility wise, right now it's kind of podcasts and communications and things like that. But I think whenever a business, to me, I mean, all businesses are looking to grow. But if you ever see, especially this time of year, businesses like putting a focus on scaling, right? They want to 2x their business and things. I always that's when I think you want to make sure that those systems are in place to do so. To your point, you're talking about the hiring. Sometimes like they have a well enough system that they understand exactly what it takes to get from A to Z, but part of that is it relies on 5 people to get that, piece of machinery or get that job from A to Z. And so I think coming in and talking about, hey, would you like to be able to 2x your business without 2x your job force? Like that's very attractive, right? Because I mean, if we stepped into like a financial discussion for a minute, increasing your revenue but also increasing your expenses, at the end your margin doesn't move much. And so like for us, when we talk about, the ROI, or like why are people going to hire us, we're trying to grow that gap between, you want your income to go up and your expenses to go down, or at least the gap between those to expand as much as possible. So I think that's the biggest one. But we talked to somebody one time that said they were really great at getting sales, but they weren't so good on the delivery. So much so that, that they signed on 5 new clients, and all of a sudden, like they couldn't fulfill that delivery. And so they had to refund money. Like as soon as you go into refund money, you know that something's out of place. And sometimes you might be the best at implementing the thing or doing the job, right? But if you don't have it organized, now the person that was fifth in line is getting served first, and the person that was second in line is getting served last. So I think, again, a lot of times those systems are in place. And sometimes it's something so simple. We were talking about, I'm reading that book Reset right now, and it's just giving the wrong people the wrong job. As an example, I just read a chapter, they're talking about x-ray, or not x-rays, but CT scans. And they waited until the patient was all the way in the back with the room, in the room with the nurse, to take the contrast. And then they had to wait an hour in order to take the CT scan. And then once they did an evaluation, like how about once they check in, the person at the front desk gives it to them? And like that is such a basic thing, from again, from the outside looking in, bringing in outside eyes, but in their head, like it's not a medical procedure, but it seemed like it to an extent. And so the 30 minutes that they're waiting in the waiting room to go back into the room was just burnt and wasted, and then they had to go back there. So it's very basic things like that, I think, that come into play. But the saving time, saving money, and trying to scale as quickly and efficiently as possible, those are the big things coming into play when we talk and sit down with customers.
Yeah, I love it. I have one more question for you, and I'm happy to answer on this too. But as we both are very passionate about business and operations and systems and technology, is who are some of your favorite thought leaders that you're learning from or have learned from?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. I'm trying to think of who I listened to lately. We've both talked about Hormozy and just like the way he's come in. He's not flashy by any means, and like he's talking about accomplishing business. I think he's one of my favorites. I'm trying to think from a systems perspective. Well, Dan Heath, who wrote Reset, I'm starting to become a very big fan of his, just because he says it so naturally, and like he doesn't look as much at tech systems as he does people systems. And I think I've always been one that likes to watch how just different systems and people work together and trying to create the best experience possible, both for, in this case would be for businesses and their customers. So I think that's definitely one of my new favorite thought leaders. I know he has quite a few books out, and I'm going to be going and reading all of those because I'm catching them at the end of this. But I know that, as typical authors do, they've got different steps to get there. So I want to go back in time and kind of read some of those. And who are you listening to right now?
Yeah, before I answer that really quickly, I believe Dan Heath was a co-author of Who Not How. So we talk about implementing proper systems too, is you want to create a system for your company and your organization, and then find the right person to fill that seat, right? And find the person in this case where you don't have to fill it full time, but we can create a system that can really help you optimize and focus on the technology side of like saving time. And it's not all AI driven either, right? This is still your company, or like the business owner's company, and we're looking at how do we make this work for you. But yeah, to your point, Hormozy is a big one for me right now. I really love one, his story, but also just the conversation in the context of how he speaks on sales and business and scaling is, it's very like, oh, we can make that happen. Simon Sinek is a big one for me as well. Start with why, right? Really being understanding of where you're trying to go. Also, when we look at systems, Gino Wickman, I'm super passionate about the Traction Library and looking at operational systems like that. I'll go back to I'm the grandfather of business, if you will, but I think that Peter Drucker really did a lot for the business world, and a lot of the principles that come through today are based on things that he was speaking to. Now, with the advancement of technology, they're not as relevant necessarily, but the underlining tones and foundations of business, I think he started a lot of those conversations. Yeah, and then I think a couple of females in the industry too. Cody Sanchez is a phenomenal business purchaser and VC, and then also looking at Amy Porterfield and Marie Forleo. They talk a lot about small businesses, empowering women. I'm also building like an email list and things like that. But one thing I'll say, in the dynamics of our co-founding relationship, I like how we get to ping pong ideas off of each other. I think it's really powerful in the different stances that we take and the different approaches that we have, being pretty clearly male and female, but also just in the way that we think, right? But at the end of the day, we're both very operational and strategic in supporting business owners, and how can we make this more optimized? I think that's one of our both of our really big skill sets. So yeah.
Yeah, I would love to create a Venn diagram of us, right? Like here's my analytics brain turning on, but like the overlap would be really strong in the middle. But again, we each bring our own aspect, just from different experiences, and I think that's a good way. I mean, if you read any of those business partnership books, you always want the complementer, the implementer, and the idea person. But there's also a lot of other layers, I think, and then we complement each other really well. And I talk that up a lot when you talk to other business people at networking events. So I definitely appreciate that about um, where we've started, where we are now, and like where we're going.
For sure.
With that in time, I'm looking on here. Let's kind of get into really quickly what the rest of this podcast going to look like. Typical like kickoff of a season, like this season on Game of Thrones, or insert your favorite TV show. I kind of want to go over what our biggest focus is here for overnight success. I kind of came up. I like the name overnight success because, as we joked in the beginning, like it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. And as much as I love business tips and things like that, I love hearing how people crawled out of the foxhole, so to speak, and like are able to form the business. So for me, that's what I'm looking forward to the most, is us interviewing business owners. And again, we'll hear about your successes, but I really want to hear about, the couch that you were sleeping on, or how you were down to $5 left in your bank account before this thing took off. And now you're, $500,000 a year, $1 million a year business. Me being the tech guy, I'm going to be handling more of our tech conversation. So focused on ClickUp, Monday.com, and the toolkit, as well as like anything else that comes out there, using ChatGPT for different things. It's really going to just be helpful topics. As much as we love to help businesses, I want to make sure that they can take some of that information and implement it themselves, whether it's, hey, here's a new app that could, eliminate some of your other apps, or here's some simple tips of how to integrate the apps with each other. Sometimes it takes more technical knowledge, but other times, like, you don't really need much technical knowledge at all. And then, Cristy, you have some things you want to be covering too on your solo episodes.
Yeah, for sure. So, kind of similarly, we'll do some relationship building kind of episodes. So, looking at other founders and hearing their success stories, or the journey, if you will. Also, talking a lot about operations and setting and achieving goals, and really how has this worked? And I'll tell you, I have failed more often than I've probably succeeded in the last 4 years, but I've learned a lot through that, and it's been really fun. And if I can help anybody condense the time it takes to build a business, then that's what I'm here for. So to that point, I'm excited that they'll in the Overnight Success podcast, there will be co-founder conversations, there will be interview conversations with other business owners, there'll be solo episodes. So really trying to figure out not figure out, but really implementing in the conversational aspect of business and scaling that. So excited to hop into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited about this year. I think we have so many good conversations on just our team meetings, right? Like when we meet weekly to talk about the business, we realized like we should have just hit record during that. And so now we have that opportunity. I think we'll do some plans. We've already got some ideas for some good topics. I know one of my upcoming favorite ones that we definitely know we're going to be doing is like going through a technology audit and just helping business owners understand like, do I have these type of automations in place? Do I have an onboarding sequence? I think that's going to be a great way to kind of kick off some of these episodes as we continue to record. Because business owners, again, when you're focused so much on getting an extra sale or making sure that you're fulfilling that order, you don't always forget it. You don't always think about the systems piece. And so understanding like, hey, there's some technology out there that could probably help streamline this, or maybe here's just a process that you could add to your current system you have in place that will just help organize that a little bit more and make sure the right people are seeing the right things and the right people are being notified about the right things. So definitely looking forward to that. This isn't going to be a super strict format. Like you said, we're going to be interviewing some people. You and I are going to be having conversations, and then we'll be doing the solo episodes as different things pop up. I'm with AI taking off. I mean, it took off in 24 with this year and everything. It's going to be a crazy year of technology. So I'm looking forward to see, different tools that come out or just different upgrades to the current tools that we use. ClickUp, Monday, the toolkit. Like, what are some very basic new pieces of functionality that can save these business owners time?
Yeah, looking forward to it. And then you want to drop in how they can find us?
Yeah, great point. Yeah, we're bad about that, right? Like self promotion, we're just having fun talking. So yeah, the website, theoptimizationspecialist.com. You realize after having to type your email out so many times that it's a lot longer than we realized. But it makes sense, right? We are the optimization specialist. It's not SEO, but we are optimizing businesses. And then this will be posted on our YouTube channel if you want to watch the video version of it. We're also going to be posting other things there. We do also on the YouTube post our build. So after we build and do an implementation for a client, I love to go through and give a quick summary. Sometimes there's some great takeaways on there of like, oh, I could just implement that in mine and take away. And then, of course, on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, find us at either our names, both of us, Cristy Lime, John Clark, or we've got the optimization specialist page on Facebook. But that's the way you can find us. Let us know, like, when you're looking at your systems, too, what are things that you wish you had more of, right? So kind of let us know about your pain points. We can definitely talk to that, whether it's the team size or the way that they talk to each other or communicate with each other. There's so many different tools out there, and we can kind of help streamline that and just give you tips on it. Again, Monday is an amazing tool, but if you don't know how to use it, it's got a lot of bells and whistles that might be a little bit too much. So we can try to make that a little bit easier to digest. But with that, I'm happy. Like, it's so cool that we're hitting close on our first episode of the Overnight Success podcast. Excited to see all these different episodes coming down soon and how the year 2025 turns out. What about you, Cristy?
Yeah, super excited. Looking forward to it. And here's to another successful year.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, Cristy, I'm looking forward to our episodes coming up. That closes this episode of the Overnight Success, and let's look forward to upcoming episodes.
Thank you.